All right, so let's continue making our Canopic jar lid. So after the first video, your lid should look something like this. The next step is to get part of your half sphere, semi-sphere to be flat, like this guy here. So you can see how, let me see if I hold this closer, how this is actually flat. It's been flattened. So I'll show you a couple different ways to do that. One of the ways to do that is really simple. So if your clay is like this clay here and it is wet, it's very moist clay, you can simply just tap one of the sides with your hand. And you want to do this gently. If you see any cracks forming, you want to smooth those out right away. Okay, and you can just flatten it this way until it's pushed in as much as you would like it to be pushed in. You can see this one has been pushed in about 1/4 of the way. So maybe I'll try to do that with this one. So I would just keep on tapping. If your clay is a little bit more leather hard and tapping with your hand, it just keeps cracking and cracking. We'll smooth out those cracks, but you can take a wooden spoon and you can tap with the spoon, the underside of the spoon. And you want to do this gently as well. Careful not to tap the bottom because we still want this to fit on top of our jar. And if we tap that in, then it's going to become flat and it'll look kind of funny on your jar. So you want to leave this little ledge here. All right, so if you need to like make a mark with your finger or, just pay attention to that. So I'm holding my lid flat in my hand, and then my spoon, you can see how it is nice and vertical. And I'm tapping from the side. Go ahead and reposition this so that's a little bit easier. And I have that paper in there, and so that paper is holding that shape while I tap. If I didn't have that paper in there, then this would go in a lot easier, but the rounded part might get flattened too, so we don't want that to happen. All right, so once I have that nice and flat, then I can go ahead and start the head. I'm just going to go ahead and smooth everything out, make everything the shape that I'm looking for. Also, it looks like because my clay was kind of moist, that tapping it actually spread out the clay and thinned where I was tapping, whereas with this one, I waited until it was a little bit more leather and tapped it, and that didn't happen. So if that happens to you and you're using very wet clay, I said mine was kind of moist, it was very moist. If you tapped it and it got really thin where you were tapping, you'll want to just add some more clay to that, add some more wet clay, and you can smear it there. If you're adding clay that's not moist and this is not moist, then you're going to definitely want to slip and score it. You might even want to do that anyway, just to be safe. So next, we're going to go ahead and put a hole in the bottom of our lids. The reason for that is we have created this giant air pocket, right? And so what happens when air gets heated? A little science for you today. When air gets heated, it expands, right? So if the air inside of our lid right now, if we put this in the kiln, were to expand, this would explode, right? Or yeah, it would explode and it would get pieces of your project all over everyone else's. And it could break theirs too. So we really don't want that to happen. All right, so here is how you put a hole in the bottom of your lid. So just as before, just as every time when we are putting a circle on something or cutting a circle, you can use something in your house to trace that is circular, or you can just cut your best circle. Let's see, what do I have handy? Okay, I'm just going to use the bottom of my carving tool, and I'm just going to press it down so I can see the circle. All right, then I'll use my needle tool, and I will cut around and around until I get to the paper. So I want to cut this deep, all the way to the paper. And it's going to not look nice as well, especially if your clay is still wet. So you'll want to wait until it's like a soft leather hard. This will make this a lot easier. All right, and then you're going to pull out any clay, that is in that circle that you cut. I find that using these little carving tools, these ribbon tools, works the best for this. And so I just go in there with my needle tool, or my ribbon tool, and I just carve inside, carve away the clay all the way to the newspaper. And don't worry about the newspaper. We're going to leave that in there because the newspaper in the kiln will just burn up. So we don't really need to worry about it at all since the kiln gets so hot. It gets over 1,000 degrees in there. All right, and so after I make that hole, then I'm just going to smooth it out. All right, there you can see all the way to the newspaper. I don't know if you can see it, but it does go all the way down to the newspaper. So now it's time to create your head of your Canopic jar. Whether you are putting one of the protectors of the organs up here or you are putting your own character on here, look up some reference images for it and try to look up many different images and do not copy off of just one of them. We want this to be your own creation, so make it your own. Put a little bit of you into it. Also remember that you can add your Egyptian symbols, you can add hieroglyphics to this, whatever you want. Mine is not quite done yet. I still have to add a lot to this. I'm going to add some patterns and some more detail. So I will show this to you when I am all done. But for now, enjoy making your lids. I can't wait to see when you're done with this.